Aaron, Mary's sitting right there. Aaron.
If you want to say anything, you got to sign
You did.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you?
Aaron,
No, I
you
said,
tell me when.
no.
All right.
Who's Patty?
There's Patty.
Oh,
Woman that
different
answers
Patty.
emails.
I know different Patty, you tell me.
There you go.
Our kids went to school. You're not the same one?
I have one daughter, Jessica.
Hmm?
My daughter's Jessica.
No? No, the Catalan I knew had 2 little boys.
Oh, that's my brother-in-law.
Huh?
That's my brother-in-law.
Oh, is it? Steve?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's good.
great guy.
And I,
Okay.
Yeah, Matt, who he was in with my boys at St. Rita's.
Oh, yeah. Let's bring the Thursday, July 15th town board meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dolly, please.
Supervisor Flaherty.
Here.
Councilwoman Cosby.
present.
Councilman Abbott.
Here.
Councilman Dean.
Here.
Councilman Cahill.
Here.
County Attorney Genesi.
Present.
All right, we're going to shake it up a little bit tonight from the agenda. We're just going to move some things around. Instead of going to the next item of open floor to each speaker, we're going to go to resolution number 3 right off the bat, because I'm going to take a guess that most of the people in the room are not here for the entertainment value of the town board meeting. They might be here about resolution number 3, which is to refer to the planning board an application for a telecommunication tower at 833 Lake Road. Would I be accurate?
Yes.
Hey. Okay, now I know Mr. Roth is here about that.
I'm his neighbor, and
And
they're
are
my
you-
neighbor, and they're their neighbor.
What's your
Julie
name?
Odenbach.
Julie, so
808
I just
Lake
got
Road.
your email back, and you are
I'm Andy Ober.
Andy. I sent you an email a couple of minutes ago.
I'm Sue Sigmund.
Oh, Sue, you sent me a letter in the mail, so I didn't have your email address, so, but you'll hear the email in a second. And you are?
Lori Anderson. She's my sister.
Oh, okay. Lori, have you reached out to us in the last week or two about this? Okay.
Yes.
Nan?
I'm Nanette Phyllis. I've lived with Andy. We're married.
Okay. And I... Way in the back.
Karman Barucha, 850 Lake Road.
Okay. You did, okay. And then, I think two,
Yes, Marie McCutcheon, 846 Lake Road.
yep, nope, I did send you back an email because you sent, and you are?
Danielle Quill, 48 Lake Road.
Okay, and Danielle, I don't think I got an email.
Not yet.
Okay. So,
However, just, pardon my interruption, I also have a written, which is what Ms. Quill and Ms. Nohoff, Mr. Koch and myself, this is an official, our letter of opposition to this that I
Okay.
made copies. I think I missed some of you, my
sure,
apologies.
and we'll get to that because, we'll get to that.
Good.
So, the reason why I'm pushing this agenda item up is that I think there might be some misinformation about how this process works. In fact, Mr. Roth and I walked in together, probably a very nice car, Mr. Roth. And I won't get into details, but I think he had a perception of the process that is very different from the realities of the process. So I want to make sure for everybody involved that we have the realities of the process. So the first thing I'm going to do, all right, we'll get to this resolution in a second, and Attorney Genesi, I might need your assistance on this, okay? But I'm going to read off basically the email I sent back to anybody who emailed me or copied me in an email in opposition to this cell tower. And what I emailed back was, where's Marie again? Marie, what I sent to you was, Marie, thanks for reaching out to me on this issue. At the Thursday, July 15th, 7:30 p.m. town board meeting, the board will be voting on a resolution to send this application to the planning board for proper vetting. Based on the research I have done, and I might need some help from you, Chair, the process for such a cell tower to be approved is quite robust. Tonight is just step one. The public will have at least 2 opportunities at public hearings, minimally the planning board and minimally the town board, to voice any concerns that they have. The application submitted on this is 1 inch thick. There it is,
I've read it.
okay? It appears all in order. I'm not getting subjective of whether we like it or dislike it based on the check boxes of an application, and Mr. Roth would probably know from his business, if this is the checklist of things to go and do a job, everything's in order here.
Jared Lusk is thorough.
It appears all in order, so I don't foresee any outcome tonight other than it being approved to go to the planning board for further vetting, which would be step 2. I hope this helps. Thanks again for reaching out, Tom Flaherty, Webster Town Supervisor. So that template, or essentially that same email I sent out to everybody that reached out to me on their concerns about this, okay? Now, the resolution, let's see here. Charlie, I guess, do you have anything to opine on this?
Well, you're correct, robust is a good word for it. There are a minimum of 2 major steps and 2 major bodies that have to approve the tower. The first is the planning board. If the town board tonight sees fit, they will refer this matter to the planning board because it's required by our code. Anytime that a communication tower application is made for certain districts, waterfront development district or a large lot, for example, which this is one. It will go to the planning board and it will have to go through the complete planning board process. In other words, it will not just be a one and done, it will be a site plan approval, both preliminary and final. There will be a public hearing at the planning board. Now, planning board, after doing that, that's a precondition. They will then make a recommendation to our board to grant a special use permit or not, and send it back to our board. At which time, this board will set another public hearing, which will be publicized, the date, etc. There'll be at least a couple of weeks' notice, and the town board will then entertain opinions and viewpoints and comments from the public as to granting a special use permit to permit this tower to exist in a large lot district. However, it was brought to my attention tonight that this tower may be over 100 feet tall.
It's 125 to 130.
And as a result, the town board, because of the way our code is set up, will have one of the rare opportunities to consider an area variance if the owners of the tower continue to request a tower over 100 feet. So you might have 2 hearings.
Right. 2 at the town board
Before
level.
this board, correct. So there may be a total of 3 hearings altogether.
And this should also go before the county because of the seaward trail, as well as the fact that this is within nature preserve areas. I mean, this is right between Gosnell, Whiting, and Webster Park. And I believe that they're also all, and including the scenic trail, are all under a different environmental conservation.
Well, that would be part of the
So
secret.
they also have to give their permits, yes?
That will be part of the secret process, and the county and any other, and interested or involved agency will have to take a look at this as well.
Yes, this project was referred to Monroe County Planning and Development, so we are awaiting their comments on it as well.
Was that submitted at the same time? I believe it was when the June, I think it was June sometime, I'm sorry, I don't have the date, that Jared Lusk made the application here. Did he do it at the same time?
No, it was referred to the county by the town.
Okay, gotcha.
So, with that being said, and thank you, Charlie, thank you to Josh Cartuzzo, our Director of Community Development. I'll use a slang term. Hopefully everybody who's here tonight, board members, department heads, and the public, the slang term of done deal, this couldn't be farther from being a done deal. There are literally going to be no less than 4 different agencies looking at this thing, not all within the town, the county, all that you just said about conservation and all that. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on this thing, okay? With that being said, I am going to read the resolution, and I'm going to read it very slowly. We propose the resolution. Oh yeah, I got it. Yep, no, I already changed that. In fact, I think we did change it on mine.
Prior to reading the resolution, Supervisor, I'd like to ask a question that, we do hand out to the board. Will these people, residents in that area, be allowed?
Well, John, the reason why I moved it to the front is that because of what we just gave as a monologue on this, with myself and the town attorney and Josh, is that, I mean, we may turn down, I don't know why we would turn down taking an application that's all in order and moving it on to step 2 in the vetting process to the planning board. But assuming we approve that, then the next thing we'll do is open the floor to comments for 5 minutes. Now, if everybody wants to get up there and talk for 5 minutes, this is not a public hearing. You're going to have chances to talk at documented public hearings on this, as we just described, minimally twice. Oh, I take that back. It would only be once.
To tell us it's not a done deal and say we can't talk seems contrary.
I beg your pardon?
To tell us it's not a done deal and then in the next sentence tell us we can't
I didn't
speak.
say you
Seems
couldn't
contrary.
talk, but I'm just saying that getting up and talking tonight on 5 minutes, what I would do, okay?
You don't have time to hear our
Is it-
opinions?
We do have time to hear your opinions, okay? But like I said, I have, and the board has all of these comments from you, so the first thing I'm going to ask from each person is that if you already emailed in your comments, do you have anything new to add to what you emailed in, because we have those in the record?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. Well then, let's go over the
Excuse me,
resolution, and then we'll go with the public comment. You're gonna be able to go up for 5 minutes in about 2 minutes.
before you vote, I have one question. What would be the mechanism that you would not consider this resolution for not voting on it? You said that we're going to have all these steps to go through and have time to talk then, but I'm asking, what is it that you would consider this resolution not appropriate or not acceptable at this point? At what point, because things do get a momentum, if you will.
Yeah.
And as they go on, so I'm just asking the board why, and I understand the process that, okay, you accept it and then we go from there, but I'm asking, for what reason might you not accept it at this particular point?
To me, if you've ever been to a planning board, if a developer wants to come in and say, I'd like to get before your planning board with a sketch drawing of a 100-story tower, all right? So we know it doesn't fit in that zoning, whatever, but if they want to come before the planning board and put in the sketches and all that stuff, they'll come before the planning board, they'll show up, and the planning board would say, that's a dead deal, all right? Now, the reason I bring up that as an example is that the first step in this process is really, it's not a subjective thing of opinion, whether this was right or wrong. It comes down to, is this application check all the boxes of the applicant, and as somebody had said here, they're very thorough. Of course they're very thorough, so we checked it through. And is that essentially, Charlie, am I saying it right?
Well, I think what her
This is-
question is, Tom, is that under what circumstance would we not refer this?
Exactly, that's
So the
correct.
answer to that would be is if we got an application that wasn't complete.
That's correct, or defective.
There you go. And we don't see that this is incomplete or defective. So,
Well, then why are they under construction at the site? If no approvals have been granted,
There's been dirt all over Lake Road. They've got a new road in there next to,
and they took out
village.
trees and they were burning debris for months.
Yeah, it's
So
already
our
started.
perception
Yeah.
is that perhaps somewhere along the way, they have an idea that there's no reason for the board not to
is
approve.
this the same address that got a fill permit?
So the address that they're speaking about, because I was out there today, took
Yes,
pictures.
you were. Thank you, Mr. Cahill.
You're welcome. And I sent the pictures to Josh and Mary, and they are unaware that that road was there, temporary road. They called the county. The county is unaware that that was done. So something that is going on with respect to that temporary access road has not been sanctioned by the town. It has not been sanctioned by the county. So we are looking into that.
It's a dangerous part of the hill too, right
Yeah,
where you
it
are.
is. And there's mud all over the road. It's not good.
Yes, thank you, and my yard and house,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
You're absolutely right. I
Blows
agree
it all the
100%.
time.
So that's a non-approved road.
That is
They-
correct.
they- So the perception is that there's work already being done. And since that work is being
and I
done,
would
that
have-
elevates everybody's stress level.
Yes.
That's what
Right.
Correct.
In respect to the-
Exactly.
Understandable,
And
understandable.
since it does, and to Julie's point, Lake Road, we understand that it's being reconstructed. Everybody's ready to bite the bullet for that, and we are all dealing with it. However, this compounds it, because I will tell you that Lake Road from around 840
Right.
straight through to where Pellet Road
Road
is nothing but mud
It's
and
a
dirt.
mess.
And
You're
it's like the
absolutely right.
safety issue.
I'm
From our
gonna,
perspective,
I'm gonna make another executive decision to change thing, because there's already dialogue and going on. I don't know, Karen, if she has a list, but let's go with the 5 minutes for each speaker, because we'll do that before we get to, I think that that's the appropriate thing to do. Do you have the list?
Yes, if you could, no, they just signed another way in, but yes, if you could use the microphone, that would be
I just
helpful.
wrote you notes saying the same thing.
Okay. All right, so, I don't know, you guys all know each other. You wanna go in order of how you're sitting, or is there, how would you like to do it?
she came with all these documents.
Well,
They're very
and I guess
impacted.
you guys are all deferring to this young lady to go first.
We've got the group that's most impacted on all the grant going
Right
on.
across from my
I
driveway.
apologize, I only have so many copies. I thought I counted correctly, but apparently I was wrong. Well, I can make more, or I can email, they're all like email at work. Basically, I wanted to put something in writing of a formal opposition with supporting
Here, you
documentation.
go up there,
Oh, I'm
to the
sorry.
podium, and there you go, you're on stage. And can you please state your name and address?
Okay, my name is Marie McCutcheon. I'm a resident, 846 Lake Road. The residents, I also live with Frederick Koch, he's unable to make it tonight. Along with several of our neighbors, we are all in opposition to a cell tower being built at 833 Lake Road. And specifically, real brief, and I went into a little bit more detail in the paperwork that I gave you, because I didn't want to, go on, was Lake Road is zoned single-family residential. It's an agricultural district. We'd like to keep it that way. The cell tower is an industrial and it's commercial. I do understand about the special permit, but regardless, we would like to keep it zoned residential and commercial, or non-commercial. Also, the telecommunications tower is exceeding the height restriction. We do not want that variance deviated, modified, or altered for the benefit of this cell tower, which is right in our front yards, our backyards. It's something that we're very concerned about. We are also concerned that a cell tower in our neighborhood is going to reduce our property values. And there's paperwork that I attached, and I pardon and make apologies that they're kind of crude, but I didn't have a lot of time to put all this together. But property values can be diminished in site tower locations anywhere from 25 to 50%. And I'm sure Monroe County does not want to see and reduce our assessments by 20, 30, or 40% when that cell tower goes up to make up for our lost property values. The other risk and concern is telecommunication towers have a high-frequency electromagnetic radiation, EMR. There's a lot of controversy over that. There's many reports that say it doesn't do anything. There's reports that say it does. There's reports that say it's inconsequential. We really don't have enough information. But long-term exposure puts human beings, environmental, wildlife, animals, the whole thing at risk. And again, there's more detail. I'm not going to go into that right now. But these are the highlights of what we're looking at. So we're looking at health risks. As far as wildlife, there's bald eagles, Baltimore Orioles, there's all kinds of deer, turkeys, you name it. And again, we don't want to run the risk of ruining our area, our nature preserves, Gosnell, Whiting, Webster Park, where a lot of people go and they take their family, they take their kids, we're out walking, we're out doing our thing, and you've got this constant low radiation going on. Is it going to be a risk for us? We don't know, especially young children or elderly. Do you want to run that risk? I don't. The proposed Lake Road project is also, and I already hit on this, we're concerned about the conservation and Department of Planning. The town of Webster has an extensive planning that it had put out where it wants to protect these areas, and there's various codes, environmental resources, open space parks and recreations, and the new sandbar park that you're putting up. Well, I don't think the site at 833 with the cell tower is going to help promote what you're promoting in Webster for our tourism or for the benefit of the citizens as far as conservation and our wildlife. And as to the aesthetics of the tower, there's no amount of screening, landscaping, or beautification of that monstrosity. I'm sorry. It's high, it's tall. I hear there may be lights. I really don't know much about cell towers. I ask any one of you, do you want that in your backyard or your front yard? I would say you probably wouldn't. So we're asking, and I'm going to speak on behalf of my neighbors at this point, we firmly oppose the proposed project in its entirety and hereby request that Webster Town Board and the Webster Town Planning Board to deny the approval of the proposed construction project, deny the approval to issue special use permits, deny the request to allow the height variance restrictions to be altered, deny the applicant's request for special use permits or height variances that are in non-compliance with the current zoning regulations for this area, and that any other considerations that they can make for our benefit, and that there are other possible locations and sites in Webster that are better suited for it, that we take the time to examine those more closely before settling on 833 Lake Road. And that's, I'm going to try to be brief, guys, sorry, but I wanted, those are the highlights of what I wanted to talk about.
You did that in about 5.5 minutes. That was impressive. Nicely done.
Thank you.
She set the bar high for anybody here. Who would like to go next?
I'll go real quick.
All right. I'll back to follow.
Julie Odenbach, 808 Lake Road, and I probably am affected by what's going on right now, and I realize it's a county project, but you as our Webster representatives should be protecting all of your Webster residents. We've been residents now for 35 plus years. We chose our location for a reason. We're putting up with 2 years of, I've sent you pictures, all of what we put up with. The trucks that are going in front of our house right now, and I'm just saying this as a preliminary, are going at least speed limit or more. They almost took out my daughter-in-law's car, and my son was just in a horrific car accident with all 3 children. So it's what we're going through right now is just these trucks going by. One today, I'm walking along the side of the road, and in order to make his turn, he almost hit me and turned in to this project. The dirt kicked up, I couldn't breathe, I can't see when we've got a southerly wind. Linda, the person that owns 833, is leasing out her land to anyone she can, and I realize she is the only one giving you, because she's willing to lease her land for anything. She has no kids, she has no relatives in the area. I have children, I have grandchildren. They do not know the effects of the electromagnetic resolution. So I'm already putting up with 2 years of this other project for us to have to look, and it would be directly in sight out my front door of an industrial tower in a very quiet residential neighborhood. Any effects on my children, my grandchildren, I know who you are. It's obviously affecting us more than it affects her. She doesn't see it out her front door, in her backyard. I'm getting the dirt right now from the project that she's getting the money for. Obviously, I'm like here, up to that. The cell service, it says our cell service is fine. It's been great for 10 years, and we're Verizon. If you're having a problem with cell service in Webster Park, then you should be putting this closer to Webster Park or an area more concerned. Our cell service has been fabulous. So I don't know why you have, again, why that's the proper location. And you're labeling it Webster Park Tower. We're miles from Webster Park. The other thing is, it is a New York State designated scenic highway. You're not staying with the code of any of this as Webster Town Board. I just don't feel you're representing us well by even sending this over to the, I don't see why you even approve it to go over to the planning board. I guess that's where I'm coming from. I don't think it should even get beyond here, but that's my thoughts.
Julie, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
You said those trucks, are they the construction vehicles
Yes.
for the county?
Yes.
They're the construction vehicles for the county?
No.
I don't know if they're the
It's a
county,
private-
they're going down
privately
Howard
owned,
Road.
They're not county trucks.
No, but are they working on the county project?
No, they are not.
They're working on Lake Road, they're widening it, they took out tons of
That's
trees.
the county
today.
project.
Some of it's that, some are going down Pellet Road, some are going in the first entrance, and then you've got some going in whatever the new thing
But
is.
today they washed the road with soap, I saw it, I was out there.
Well,
and then
they-
came
at least
through
they
with
tried.
the-
And I just want to make sure, and
Sure.
Chad, thanks for chiming in, but I want to hear from Julia.
Yeah, I
The
don't
trucks
know
that you're
exactly the
saying,
trucks, they're coming up from where the project is, but they're not slowing down. The one took the corner at Pellet Road, full speed, almost took out my daughter-in-law's car, and she was just normal spot on the road.
And they backed into my
I
mailbox.
will actually approach Keeler with that, because I know who the construction,
So do you think it was a Keeler truck?
coming in from that way, probably yes, because it was
Okay, that's-
entering off Pellet Road.
Bothersome, and we will be talking to the county about that.
Yes, yeah, but I will talk to Mr. Keeler myself, because it's coming to a peak right now. But then to have the proposal of more trucks and more construction over there, I'm at my limit. So, thank you.
Alrighty.
I like your points better, but I'm just, that's, the kids, it's awful, I can't even be on the, they're fine. Did you hear about this? He's out running with the police, 90 miles an hour. I have 104 in California. He's doing great. Why don't we just take the accidents almost?
I appreciate what you said, that this is really just the first step in the process, and understand that.
I'm sorry, can you give your name and address?
Yeah, sorry. I'm Andy Opart, 820 Lake Road,
Okay.
Webster. I appreciate that, again, this is the first step in the process. At the same time, though, I think I want to, and I think my neighbors, in no uncertain terms, want to make clear that this is not a good idea. So to that end, want to talk briefly about the proposal for a 130-foot steel industrial tower on Lake Road. I wanted first, if I didn't know if there'd be someone here from Verizon or from the attorney's office, I wanted to give them an award. I call it the 2021 Audacity Award, the biggest bovine byproduct. Based on their submission, Exhibit B in the Town of Webster submission, it says the project will not create any detriment to adjacent properties or change the character of the neighborhood. That putting a 130-foot cell tower in the middle of our neighborhood, I think that's a pretty hard thing to say with a straight face. Our friends at Verizon say they want to improve the cell service on Lake Road, okay. They say they want to build a new cell tower to do that, okay. And then they say they want to put it right on Lake Road. That's not okay. Maybe there's a better spot to put it. Verizon says they looked at a couple other spots, but they think Lake Road is easier. So let's just go ahead and put up a cell tower on Lake Road. Let's do the hearing, approve it, get the thing going up ASAP. Because Lake Road's just another road, so let's get this project moving. Except Lake Road is not just another road. We know that because we live there, and the tax assessor knows that it's very special because that's reflected in our tax bills. But somebody else says Lake Road is very special. The New York State Legislature. New York State felt it was so important to protect and showcase the natural beauty of the state that they enacted special legislation to do so, the Scenic Byways Law. And the states designated a limited number of specific areas in the state that deserve preservation. Lake Road was identified as such and is now officially part of the Great Lakes Scenic Byway. In fact, it's also been designated as part of the National Scenic Byways Program. The state put specific goals out there for the Scenic Byways Program. Number one, protect, preserve, and enhance the natural and man-made scenic beauty of New York State. Number two, promote awareness and appreciation of the state's scenic, ecological, cultural, and historical attributes. And three, provide economic benefits through increased tourism and improved property values. I looked at the photos from the State Scenic Byways Program. I saw beautiful mountains, forests, waterways, scenic winding roads, but I did not see a single cell tower in any of the pictures. Why not? Maybe it has something to do with protect, preserve, and enhance the natural scenic beauty. As far as electromagnetic radiation, still a lot of controversy about what is a safe level. FCC established maximum exposure guidelines, and Verizon, in their filings, attested that this tower would not be expected to exceed the maximum. Will those limits change? Well, government, previously, with respect to lead poisoning, they had a level of 60 micrograms per deciliter that they said was safe. And then it went to 25, and then it went to 10. It's currently at 5. Will the same thing happen to the electromagnetic radiation with the cell towers? I don't know. What I do know is there's a lot of kids in that area just a quarter mile away from the proposed site of the tower. Property values. Values in the vicinity of the proposed site will go down. Common sense tells you that. There's also a lot of studies out there that reflect that. That's a no-brainer. Studies suggest Marie had some higher numbers, but I've seen numbers at a minimum, depending on how close you are and other factors, of at least 10 to 20%. That's a lot of money. That's huge. So does it make sense to put a 130-foot industrial tower in Lake Road, of all places? I don't think so. So what can we do about it? Well, we need to use common sense and reconsider whether a giant industrial tower on Lake Road is the smartest choice. It may be the easiest choice for Verizon, but the town has a responsibility to balance the interests of all the parties involved. So let's take another look, a better look, a closer look at the possibilities for alternate sites for this tower. We're not trying to stand in the way of progress. Verizon identified a few other sites which they quickly abandoned for the Lake Road site. I bet that if we take our time and investigate carefully, there may be another site that works. It may not be Verizon's first choice, but it may be an acceptable choice. And again, the town has a responsibility to its residents to balance the interests of the residents, businesses, and to protect, preserve, and enhance the scenic beauty of Lake Road. If the town board wants to refer the matter to the planning board, I ask that the town attach a statement to the resolution, and I've provided, I think, a sample statement to be attached, directing the planning board to have the applicant reevaluate alternate site options. So again, this proposed attachment to your resolution, I would encourage you to do it. Whereas the Webster Town Board seeks to balance the interests of the residents and businesses of the town, as well as being a good steward of the town's natural assets, and as the Webster Town Board recognizes the official designation of Lake Road as a New York State Scenic Byway and as a National Scenic Byway, accordingly, to fulfill its duty to protect and preserve the integrity of this special status for Lake Road, the Webster Town Board directs the Webster Planning Board to request the applicant reevaluate their site selection process in order to identify viable alternatives to the proposed Lake Road location. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andy. Okay. Who's next?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Nanette Rose. I'm 820 Lake Road. My husband just spoke. I don't see the reason to reiterate everything everyone else has said, because I think those of us who are here are opposed to it. But there are a few points I would like to make. For all of you who say it's a procedural issue to pass this tonight, I understand that. That's your job. I have some issues with how the procedure is done. For example, in this particular case, the notification of this meeting and the notification that they received the consideration of a cell tower came about because there was the property under review sign that was posted. It took me 7 to 10 days of checking the town website daily to find out what that sign meant. And then it gave us a tiny amount of time to try to notify our neighbors and prepare for this meeting tonight. So it really, when you say the procedure is to pass it on, the perception that we have, that, if I could speak for everyone, that it's a done deal is because we hardly have any notification. In all of the paperwork that you hold up, there's an affidavit that people will be notified prior to, I believe, the planning board. How can you file an affidavit that we've been notified when that meeting hasn't even occurred yet? And then we see the road going up separate from all the other construction issues. So that's why I think we all feel it's a done deal and we have no say. It would be helpful if perhaps there was improved notification of the people who were being impacted by something so dramatic. I mean, Lake Road is a beautiful road. To put a huge scar on it between the sandbar park and the Webster Town Road seems terrible. It seems like a terrible idea. There are plenty of other spots listed that may not be easy or cheap for Verizon, but would be easily effective. I myself have lived here 27 years and never had any cell phone issues. So I'd like to see if anyone here who's impacted has any cell phone issues, and none of us have. So I just would like you to take that into consideration, that the perception goes a long way, and that's why our perception is this is a done deal.
Was it Annette or Nanette?
Nanette.
Nanette, okay. And thank you very much.
Can I just say the document, the 180-page document was placed on the website July 1st. I don't know when the sign was placed in the property, but I can tell you at least on the website, end of it, under the property under review section. It was placed there July 1st.
And how were we supposed to know about it? I mean,
There was,
we just
from-
weren't notified.
Okay,
From
yeah.
the day
That's
that, beyond my,
Thank you. I was
beyond
gonna
my
say-
jurisdiction.
And I appreciate
And
that.
that-
So the day that
that's-
sign went up, I checked the town website every single day. And there was a 7 to 10 day. Now, maybe I'm not looking at the right spot on the town website. Maybe I don't know how to navigate the town website.
I want to make sure, Josh, because we just had a code change that went from mailing out to within 100 to 300 feet of people that live or to posting the big sign, the big realtor sign. Is that what that is?
Yes.
Referring to the big realtor type?
And just to let you know, it's a tiny little sign amongst all the construction that's going on there.
We thought it was for the new pick thing that they wanted to do at the farm. That's what we were thinking it was
Okay.
about.
So, if I
If
may,
you refer to the exhibit that is in the 180-page applicant's proposal, there's a whole section, I believe it's Exhibit P, whereby there's an affidavit for proof of mailing. And under the law, they are supposed to provide the residents, and this is the listing off of the assessed, of when the public hearing is. And there's a rough copy, but of course, as of yet, we have not received notice of this public hearing. And you're saying this is not the public
You won't.
hearing. But what I'm saying is that's in
Yeah.
their own presentation, and that's normally what law does.
can I explain something that might help put it in perspective? So,
Well, I personally don't care, but I'm just saying that's where we
well,
got our
I'm trying to-
perception.
I'm trying to explain why this perception exists. So, basically, the town board recently passed a code change. So we switched from letters to these posted signs as of July 1st.
I saw that, yes, I
Correct.
saw that
So we're
online.
still working out some bugs with that, but in addition to the signs being placed on the site, which from our perspective is more visible because anyone driving by can see, we're also mailing postcards to notify residents
Didn't get
within
any.
100 feet.
None.
But now, this is not a public hearing, so we're not required to send those letters until the appropriate time.
Correct, I
We put the
get
sign
that.
up well in advance, just so people had time to review the
If I
project.
may, you put the sign on a road that's closed.
We don't place the signs personally. There should have been 2 signs, one on Pellet and one on Lake.
I haven't seen one.
No,
on
that's
Lake
not
Road.
it.
The one on Lake Road?
Nope.
The road is closed, so there's a lot
Yeah,
of people
local
who don't
traffic
drive
only.
that
The
way.
road is not closed in that location.
No.
Yes, it is.
There's a closed sign.
There's a closed
Not to
sign.
local traffic.
Right, but where that sign is, the road is open, where that sign is. Okay.
Lake Road with the detour signs, yes, it's not getting half of the traffic that we normally get. People are diverting. Most people who are residents know you can take Whiting, you can go down Pellet.
Right.
A lot of people bypass Pellet and not even go down that way, and they'll take Clem or any of the other side roads and just avoid the area until they get past the construction area. You can even take Bosberg and go all the way down, so you would still miss that sign.
Yes, but the
Jack,
people that are most impacted are the residents that live in that area. And all you folks have seen that sign, correct?
True.
No,
We didn't know what it was
because I
about.
can't cross the road without the trucks. So,
Well,
I'm just saying.
I think Barry's perception is, and the optics of it is, that first of all, there's a lot of trucks, so it's almost maybe like a perfect storm.
Dangerous.
You've got a lot of trucks there, so people are watching the trucks. They may not be paying attention to the sign, and you've also got as I understand, the new roadway that in the optics of it, everybody here believes it's already going in.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you've got
they
a
were coming
company.
down-
You've got a
Nina,
company.
do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. And Tom?
No, I'm good. I don't have anything else to say to you.
But the thing
No,
is,
we're good.
They've
You've
been
already-
cutting down
Is anybody
trees.
else, and I don't mean to cut you off.
yeah,
I
but,
do
you know, what
let
he's
you
trying
go.
to say
I
is they've
do
been
let you
cutting
go
down
first.
trees and burning debris for the
Who else
past
is gonna
3
get up there and
months.
talk? And I'm gonna get to the perception issue in a second, but I want to talk about that perception issue after everybody has gotten a chance to speak.
Lori Anderson, 810 Lake Road, family home. One of the reasons is the perception thing that I would like to speak about for a minute.
I'm sorry, did you say Lori?
Anderson.
Is Susan Sigmund?
Susan Sigmund. It's our family home, we're joint owners.
Okay, that's, I just, because I had Susan Sigmund down for 810 Lake, and I was like,
Right,
I have to
right.
Lori. All right,
It's our family home.
gotcha.
So the perception is the sign went up and then shortly after the road went in and they've been clearing out a lot of the orchard here for quite some time. And my sister will agree with me that there's been an awful lot going on in this short section of Lake Road for a number of years. First one project and then another. And there's been a huge impact on those houses with the road being widened and the construction and the digging and putting in new lines and all that construction. You think you're finally done, and then this year we start with the construction of the next section, and this work area is directly across from 810 Lake Road driveway. And it's huge fencing because of an initial break-in with equipment. The gravel is piled about 20 feet high at certain times. It's quite a mess. And you say, okay, this is temporary. First, we heard 2 years, and now there's some talk that it may even be 3 years. So during all of this, and just, okay, we'll get through this. And then you see this road go through with the sign, more area being cleared. It does look as if this is just put this in too. And it is inconsistent with the fact that this is this beautiful roadway that goes to Webster Park. And you've done all this work to make this road wide and accessible for pedestrians and the bike riders that have been impacted so many years by a narrow road. It's like opening it up to the public, and this suddenly you're going to put a cell tower there, which, I mean, it would probably not impact so many people as the neighbors that are here. But it is, it's right in our front yard. It is so close in our front yard that it's just, it's unbelievable. And I think we're all just extremely taken aback, especially seeing the fact that with no other explanation, it looks like it has already started with no notification, neighbors unable to find things on the website, and you want to do a procedural vote to pass it on. And I really am concerned about a strictly procedural vote, because then it gets to the planning board and they will do their rubber stamp of a procedure, and it keeps going and going, and there's this procedure and that procedure, and it's no one's fault because they followed procedure. Well, this is really real for us. Very, very real for us. And I don't think there's been due consideration of, is this the right spot for a cell tower? Verizon is big, Verizon is mighty, they have money, somebody will be getting a benefit from it, I'm sure. And I don't know who that is, and I don't even really care who that is. But I don't think we as a community really want to rubber stamp things that don't make sense. You're building parkways, you're building these walkways, all these trails they've been promoting. I see people using them. There's beautiful parkways, people are talking about. Have you gone to the trails in Webster? They're gorgeous. You are doing a great job with all that. Don't put a cell tower in the middle of it. Think about it. Don't rubber stamp it and move it on. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak?
I have another comment. There's a lease agreement dated June 14th of 2020 between the company, Verizon, and the landowner being Click-Foil, whatever, Inc.
Cinquefoil.
Cinquefoil, Inc. So they've got a signed lease agreement. That's the other reason that if, for those of us who've reviewed this 180-page proposal, plus the construction that's already begun, it looks to us as if it's a done deal. Because how is this person now going to get out of this lease? Who's got the money? Follow the money. Someone's getting paid. She's obviously got an interest. Verizon now has an interest. But what about our interests? And we're looking at it from the site like, wow, it looks like we're being pushed over.
And you're supposed to represent us, I think.
Well, and I want to just say this. First of all, perception, I totally understand after everything we just heard today.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak before, but if I'm sitting in your shoes and you put all of those things together that you just described, I would have a bad perception of what's going on, okay? And one thing I've learned about perception over the years is that even when presented with the facts, you're not going to have your mind all of a sudden snap out of that perception. It will take some time for you guys to basically absorb in. I'm going to explain what I mean by this. For days, weeks, whatever, you've built up this perception that it's a done deal, that the fix is in, and somebody's getting money, which is not true, okay? But no matter what I say here tonight and we present to you, that's not going to make you snap into like, okay, everything's good. And I understand that. Perception has changed not by arguing the past, because I'm not going to argue the past, because I agree with everything you just said. If I was sitting in your shoes, I would probably have the same perception as you. Perception is going to be changed by what happens in the future. And what I think will happen in the future will show you, Julia, that we are representing our town and our citizens, okay? We might not do it in the time frame and the procedure that you like, but I want to talk about that on procedure, okay? Now, you guys have been delving into this since the moment you found it. I would too. I would dig into it. I would write up all this stuff. I would write this thing. I'm going to be very honest with the town board. We don't really start looking at this until this starts to hit our purview. And really, when we start to gather the evidence, Charlie, I hate to say it, it's kind of like a trial. And I'm making a bunch of notes here that the state and the scenic thing, first I've ever heard of that. You might say, you're the town supervisor, how didn't you know that? There's a lot of things I don't know. But as we gather this evidence, okay, and it's really similar. We're gathering
Yeah, it's called
evidence.
discovery.
Can I speak, please? Yes,
You're
it
being
is,
a little
but we're not in a
condescending
trial,
to a group
okay?
of people
As we
here.
gather that evidence, that is what makes the town board be able to make good decisions. Now, I'm going to tell you this, Andy, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I have a way of getting myself in trouble with my mouth, okay? Is that just because you wrote that it's a scenic and federal trail and this and that, we got to go corroborate that, okay? So for us to sit here and take citizens who I totally believe in good faith are coming in and telling exactly what they think is there, we now, doing our job, have to go and corroborate that through this process. Hang on one second.
Okay.
And when we do that, it's very possible, first of all, you got the county that it's been referred to, right? County doesn't care about the lease between Verizon and a private, that's two private entities. We don't care about that. If they gotta break that lease, that's not my concern.
No, what we
I'm
care
not
about
in
is
bed
the
with
time
any private industries, either is the county, either is the state. If we go to the state and Charlie, we go to the comptroller or we go to the Association of Towns and say, hey, this is the scenic thing,
I
what are
get
you?
that.
There's
When we
signs on the
gather
road
all
that say
this
scenic.
stuff,
Yeah,
what
that's
will
what-
happen is the way the process works, and it does work. And I've seen it in my 18 months as a supervisor work. What I've also seen is at the onset of these controversial projects, controversial to the people that live within a couple hundred yards of it, okay, is that they want the town board to say right then and there, dismiss, don't go into the process. You do realize we wouldn't be doing our job if we did that. You do realize that.
Well, I'm just saying, we're asking you that it shouldn't be approved and go through. We are asking that tonight because.
We're not approving this.
You're approving it to go through to the planning board. We're asking that you don't do that.
I'm gonna
I mean,
Charlie,
isn't that what you're voting on? Isn't that what
We
you're
are,
voting on?
This
okay,
is,
Charlie,
they
please
submitted
explain
an
from a legal
application.
standpoint.
They've submitted an application.
Correct, I
The
got
town board
that.
has to consider whether or not they have met the parameters and the requirements of submitting an application. And if they have, then they really should go to the planning board. It's not a question of approving anything. They're not
But they're
approving anything.
already also asking for a ton of variances amongst, in
None
that.
of that is happening tonight. None of that is gonna happen even at the planning board.
But I guess I'm saying if they're asking for all these variances that aren't within the structure of the Webster town, why are you even sending it on? I guess
Can I
that's
ask you
what I'm saying.
something, Julia?
Sure.
Okay. Were you familiar a couple of months ago with a senior housing project that was proposed on Publishers Parkway at the corner of Hart Road? Is
No.
anybody familiar with that?
No.
Well, it's not in your backyard. I believe you probably weren't familiar with it. There were people in here saying, this needs to stop. This needs to stop right now.
If I'd known about it, I would have been there with them.
You're going to love the story then.
I
The
can't-
process played out. We gathered evidence. We heard a lot of things. We took advantage of the time in the different procedural things that happened to the planning board, and they referred back and this and that. And it got back to this town board, and there was a special use permit, or what is it called, for that zone.
Especially.
It was voted down 5-0 by this board.
Good. Well, I'd love to.
Well, how do you like that? But
I would like to see.
the people that were here 3 months earlier at the beginning of the process could not understand that night, how can't you as the supervisor in this town board stop it right now? And I understand the emotion of that, I really do. And I agree with the perception, you have every right to feel the way you do emotionally on July 15th at 8:30. You just had a full hour to voice all this stuff, and I got great news for you. You at least got one more time to do it, and you can go more than 5 minutes at a public hearing, right? So you can go right back to the planning board if we move this along, which, like I said, I don't see anything procedurally based on reviewing the application that we wouldn't move the thing along.
I have a question for our town attorney. So I understand, procedurally, if their application is in order, then it's suggested it's incumbent upon us to send it through. But isn't also part of that is for the town board to take into consideration the actual scope of the project as part of the determination whether it goes forward or not? Yes or no?
Well, isn't it simple yes or no? I think if you're going to do that, if you're not going to send it on, I think you have to document the reasons why you're going to send it.
Well, can I ask you that, Charlie?
They submitted an application that's otherwise complete. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you can't not send it forward. But I think you have to.
Councilman Cahill?
Yes, sir.
Terrible precedent. Because every other project that comes in, if we decide, and by the way,
That was a good question.
it's a great question, the answer, and it might not be the, but precedent, there's a legal term, right?
It is, yeah.
Do we want to set a precedent that we subjectively decide when procedure should be moved along when somebody is filled out? Because that kind of sounds a little bit autocratic to me. That we haven't gone and really reviewed all the evidence.
Well, and that's why I, number one, asked the question. And number two, is it incumbent upon this board to do more research into this actual project, not just the application itself? Did they dot their I's, did they cross their T's? But should we not take a deeper look into the project itself?
I think
I'm just asking a question.
I think that's the purview of the planning board.
Well, there's no question that the town board is going to have to take a deeper dive on this if it goes past sketch review, preliminary and final, and public hearings and whatever at the planning board. At the same time, in parallel, in comes information from the county, which might kill it right there. And I am not a pass the buck person. I don't need some other agency to kill the deal, all right? But I do like to follow procedure.
I just want to point out, nowhere in the paperwork that was it's submitted by Verizon, and I did, like everyone else, read all of that paperwork, which gave me a terrible headache. Did they
I bet it did.
document that it is part of the New York State DEC Great Lake Scenic Byway is the proper term?
It was in there on the one application where they did X the box.
Oh, I didn't see that on that. Okay, well then I apologize.
But-
the
and then
proper
they- and they-
term is
and
the
they
Great
put
Lake
it-
Scenic Byway.
Yeah, and they put it in the attorney's cover letter.
didn't see that.
Stating that it was to go before this and that they were taking the necessary steps to get that extra, again, it's a special permit. So no,
Okay, I'm
I
sorry, I
didn't-
didn't see that.
No, there was a lot of duplication and a lot of paperwork.
Senior housing project on Publishers Parkway, 5-0 voted down. But we followed the procedure.
Can I ask a procedural question?
You sure can, Tom.
As I understand the procedure now, you take it, you looked at the application has checked all the boxes, all right? It goes to the planning board. The planning board gets it, they review it, and then if it checks all the boxes there, they bring it back to the town board.
It's a little.
Not necessarily.
Well, they have
Not necessarily.
Hearing.
Well, I understand it's a hearing, and so this isn't a hearing.
No, this is
No, it's not. We
All
tried to
right,
be
so this isn't a hearing.
flexible to
Well, I
the
understand.
situation.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
So, from our perspective, these people
Can I
sit,
just interrupt a second? If you're gonna keep doing back and forth, can they come up to the microphone, because I can't hear them, and we're getting a lot of complaints that
That they
people
can't
watching
hear
from home
people.
can't hear.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you.
So let, Tom, can you name,
my name is
give your
Tom
name
Robb,
and address, please?
800 Lake Road. My question is on the procedural side, and on the optics side, just to review what we've already discussed. There's been a sign put up that is somewhat subject to visual identification because of all the traffic that's going on Lake Road. So to a certain extent, it's compromised. Whether we agree or we disagree, that those are the facts from a perception standpoint that we're seeing. Secondly, the road has a detour, so it doesn't get the normal traffic that it would every other year. And that is perhaps because of the issue with the construction. And the third issue is that there's a road being built that nobody was privy to at this group, that was just being built there with trees taken down. And the fourth issue was we have evidence of a signed lease in June. So that information that we've just all discerned here collectively certainly does have the perception and the optics of a done deal.
Couldn't agree with you more, Tom.
I'm glad to hear
I
that.
said it before,
Now,
in your
from a
shoes, I'd be
procedural
like, that doesn't look good.
Well, I think it's obvious. From a procedural standpoint, today is really just making everybody that's sitting here aware that we're going to take a document that Verizon has published, give it to the town, the boxes are checked, it goes forward, and it goes to the planning board. What I think people were concerned about here, and they asked about, was, has there been enough review of the county, the scenic highway, all the hard work that's been done by this town over a number of years, getting the Gosnell Woods with the Genesee Land Trust, all the walking trails, that has the town board taking the time to say, is this something we want to send to the planning board? Is this something that is in our best interest as a town to send to the planning board? Or do we send it to the planning board, have them review it, we'll have a hearing, and then we'll discuss the thing in the hearing, but these people that are sitting here may look at this and say, we're going to another hearing, but when I get done with it, it's more of a procedural thing too. Then it comes back to the town board, you good people, and you talk about what we're doing. It's gone to the planning board, they see no issues, they're prepared to provide a zoning variance and move forward. Because I understood it when I said here before, it doesn't have to go to zoning. Now, That may change after this meeting, but it was my understanding it can go to planning and they can decide if it should be 130 feet or not, or 100 feet. And, well, that was what I understood, and I could be wrong. In any case, the next issue is it comes back here, and does it get voted on here to go forward or not to go forward? Is the town board, the elected officials here, are they the people that give this project the go-ahead? Or is it the planning board?
No, ultimately, it's just,
Right, so it will come here, Charlie, for you
that's correct,
to have a vote.
that's
Yes.
correct.
Is that vote open to everybody that sits here, or is it a closed meeting?
No, it's
No, that's
I'm asking, I don't know.
It's not only a public meeting, it's a public hearing.
All right, that's fine. So the vote is all taken here and it's all public.
Correct.
So every one of you are gonna be out there one way or the other.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct. Now, along those lines, there was almost an exact person, not as good looking as you, Tom, that stood up there
You
about
gotta
4
work
months
harder than
ago
that, Tom.
and said the exact same thing about the senior housing project. And then 3 months later, it got shot down 5-0. Went through the procedure. Now, the difference in that one, and Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, okay? Some of the things you might be missing in the process, it's robust, as I said, is that there is a seeker. Can you explain seeker from the standpoint
Well,
of Charlie?
Seeker is a process that requires an in-depth environmental review. It's under the Environmental Conservation Law of the State of New York.
I'm familiar with seeker.
Everybody's heard about it. It's been around for about 40 years.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Anyway, because of the nature of this particular application, it was required, and will be required, that any other interested, or what they call interested or involved agencies, and since this is on a county road, the county will have to be involved, and I'm guessing the NEC will probably have to be involved as well. So, they will all be notified of the project, and they will have to make comments on it.
So if this goes to seeker and it doesn't
And
pass.
it has to go to seeker.
I understand, all right, thank you. When it goes to seeker and it comes back from seeker not approved, then what happens?
Well, the planning board, we're asking the planning board to be the lead agency,
Well,
which means the planning board will have to make the determinations. They will have to get all the seeker information before they make a determination.
So if whether it's the planning board or it's the town board, if this comes back rejected by seeker, it's a done deal.
I don't like the term done deal,
All
it's
right.
got me twitching. It's a dead deal?
All right,
How about a dead deal?
I like that.
Would that be an accurate statement, Charlie?
actually, I wish we would have started, this whole procedure out with a dead deal.
Let's say in the current
But the
configuration that
facts
they're proposing.
Charlie, excuse me, the facts of the matter are, if it comes back from seeker, rejected, or it doesn't pass the seeker, then that does kill the process. Or does it,
It's not really a yes or no, because seeker, oftentimes the seeker process will say, here's your correctives, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. It is not
and then
necessarily.
who is the one that played, what part of the town? Is it the planning board, or is it the town board that reconciles the
The
seeker?
town, the planning, all right, let's just say for your, and for your friends and neighbors' position here, the planning board could reject it entirely and not grant site approval, and that would be pretty much the end of it.
So, but I was well, yes, that could happen. But the seeker, your comment was that it could come back with a list of remedies,
Right.
all right? Who is the person that decides how those remedies are executed? Is it Verizon? Is it the planning board that says you have
It's
to
when,
do?
the planning board will have make the ultimate decision.
So the planning board has the ultimate decision if this comes back to the town board.
Correct.
All right.
They have to do two things. They have to grant preliminary and final site plan approval, and they have to go through the seeker process.
So if it's for them to do that, the preliminary site plan approval, they have the ability to modify the zoning of an area if it's farmland?
No. The reason it comes back before us is because of the zoning of where this is.
So if they come back and they say, this meets everything that we need to have done with the seeker and everything else, the town board has to grant a variance of the zoning.
We don't have to grant it.
No, but in order, I'm sorry, I misspoke. In order for this to go forward,
Right.
you would have, all you good people here, I'm sucking up to you now, all you good people here.
You're gonna have to try harder than that. Didn't you say it to me?
Comment, you would all have to approve a zoning, or it would have to pass.
Right.
A zoning change.
It'll effectively be probably a two-part hearing. There'll be a hearing on the zoning and a hearing on the special permit.
All right, so ultimately,
By zoning, I'm sorry, not zoning, we're not talking about a zoning district, we're talking about a variance for the height of the town.
oh, so the zoning being residential and farmland, this works for the, it's zoned.
It's permitted with a special use permit. That's why we have this very complicated process in our code. Because
So
it's
you
permitted
have,
only
who
with
grants a special use permit?
We do.
The town board does.
Right.
Okay, so if you don't grant a special use permit, they can't go forward with it.
Correct.
And Tom, the senior housing project, in essence, wasn't that an overlay, which is somewhat of a synonymous with a special use?
It was somewhere because
And-
what they were requesting
Right.
would have required a special use.
And the beauty of that, and I keep coming back to that, because that was the night when we voted 5-0, where the board got to give their opinion and say why they voted, why all of us voted 5-0. You, I think, and this is what I said, you want to come in and say, vote now 5-0. That's not, that we aren't doing our job. We're not gathering all the evidence that we need to gather. You guys are great people. You all live within about 100 yards of this place. There's no reason not to believe everything you've just said and what you've given. We're going to review this, and it may never get back to us. Because that seeker process, and Charlie, there's the state scenic highway, as you said, Andy. There's the federal something you wrote in here. I've got it here. You've got the county that you sent it to, Josh. There is so much that this project has to cross hurdles of to actually then end up back here. And I will tell you this, at least while I've been the supervisor, if it gets back here and we end up doing 1 or 2 public hearings, because that's something we'll have to figure out, Charlie, because there's 2 votes we have to do. One is the special use permit in a large lot, and 2 is the variance of the height. Whether that's 1 public hearing on both, I know this, we would not be voting that night of the public hearing because there would be all this evidence that would be coming in, even more so than you gave tonight. And you did such a good job with all this that you gave me tonight, right? But I'm not that good to read through this all and corroborate it and check references tonight.
Don't worry, I'm gonna do the same for the planning board.
I hope you do.
You know I'm going to.
And this is why the process works,
I understand,
It really
I
does.
get all that.
you know? And I've seen it work.
How long do you anticipate from the point that it goes to the planning board? What is in any kind of an estimation or time frame period for this robust?
Can I make a deal with you? If I answer this, can we, it's 8:45,
No, all I'm wondering
Can we move on?
is it weeks, is it months? I mean,
I think this is what would happen. The planning board has to get it on their agenda.
I know, because
Now-
I'm the 20th, but
Okay,
I'm just
so-
trying to
and
get an
here's the thing,
estimate
the
of time when a
planning
public
board,
hearing.
remember, and this all goes to perception, which I agree with everything you said. It
Is it
looks
up?
weird, a lot of circumstantial evidence that when you put it all together, the road's under construction, the sign, we didn't get the letters. We just changed our code on July 1st, that we post those signs instead of sending letters. But we decided from a customer service perspective, even though our code has changed from sending a letter to people that live within 300 feet, Josh articulated earlier that our code now says these realtor signs, hopefully 2 of them, I'm interested to see if they're in the corner of
There's
Holiday
not one on
Lane,
Pellet
all right?
Road.
Now, but we'll get that remedy because those signs really are meant for the public hearing part of the planning board. Not so much tonight. Tonight, you got a pseudo public hearing out of this, in a way,
But
okay?
that doesn't leave
So,
people time to
but here's the thing.
understand.
So the planning board, when they go to do it, if they got it on the agenda, you said for when?
The 20th, next week.
And none of us received letters, that affidavit says 7 days.
I totally understand the perception.
Yeah,
Okay, well, you know what, if it's a 20th,
I'll be here either
and I
way.
know that we don't have it in our code, but do you have any idea if postcards went out from the standpoint of
So
that?
the 20th is for sketch plan review.
Correct.
Which is the first in several steps of the planning
correct, it's the
process.
preliminary, I get
So
that.
And that's
the
not a
mailings
public
are
hearing.
required when it's a preliminary hearing. So that
There you
point,
go.
that's the public hearing. So mailings were not required for sketch plan. So if this board decides to refer it to the planning board, it will go before them on Tuesday for sketch plan review. If the planning board chooses, it then comes back again for preliminary, at which time the first public hearing occurs.
Okay, so we're gonna start talking about a timeline here, so now think about this, okay? The 20th isn't a public hearing, it's a sketch.
Right.
Remember what I said earlier about you can go before the planning board with a sketch of a 100-story tower? Book you, you're gonna get shot down, right? So when they go to this sketch thing, now as evidence is coming in, maybe the county comes back from when we referred it out there, and the county comes back and says, absolutely not, and cites the chapter, verse, and law. Charlie is the town attorney, or the planning board attorney, which is Roger, looks at it and says, yeah, this thing is, it can't move forward. And that'll be it. So all these bits of evidence, discoveries, you said, are gonna be coming in, all right?
I'm just
And the
trying, I
file
just
will get
want
bigger
to,
and
yeah, I
bigger,
just want
and
to
if
time
any of those items end up being a dead end, if you want to call it, then it's a dead end and it doesn't get, but if it gets bad here, which I'm trying to think, best case scenario, sketch on the 20th. Let's say they then do the preliminary, and they try to do preliminary and final, which there is precedent of that in the planning board, right? When would the next planning board meeting be?
Well, Josh, they usually need, the county usually needs about 30 days anyway, doesn't it, for its review?
That's the maximum
For the last 20 years, so yeah.
Okay, so the planning board can't do their preliminary and their final until they get the back from the county. So if the what is the first planning board meeting of August? Is it Tuesday the 3rd? Okay, so it's gonna be either Tuesday the 3rd or more likely Tuesday the 17th. If it gets past sketch.
Correct.
If evidence doesn't come in that kills it.
Do you
So
guys,
now let's say it's the 17th.
do you
all right?
guys put like the outcomes of these
Of course, yes.
discoveries all on the website?
So,
So we can go on and just check the
You
website.
can also sign up for notifications through our website,
Okay.
we send to your telephone.
Great,
So-
okay.
They
Now-
work great.
let's say that the planning board gets through all of that, okay? If I understand correctly, probably in the first board meeting of September, town board meeting, wouldn't we have to set a public hearing? Okay, so then we set a public hearing, maybe two, we gotta look into that. And we set the public hearing and we gotta give proper notice, which I think for this is a minimum 10 days, no more than 20. So it probably is gonna be the second board meeting of September or the first board meeting of October, which is the public hearing.
Gotcha.
And then when we do the public hearing, if it gets that far, and by the way, you guys will be professionals by then, because you will be, I would assume you'd be at the planning board public hearing, and you'd be right back here for whether there's one public hearing or two public hearings at the town board. By the time the town board would go and vote, because I don't like the town board voting on something the day of the public hearing, because that doesn't give us the time to maybe take new evidence that came in at that public hearing and go and disseminate it. So my guess is, based on that timeline, if nothing stops it, based on the state and the federal and the seeker and the county and the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, would we be looking at the first
November,
week of
December.
November, where we're voting on a special use permit and a height variance? Is that a reasonable time frame?
Okay.
And that is one robust process, isn't it, Tom?
You're a mess.
No, I stink at this, I'm telling you.
Meanwhile, Josh, is there construction going on at 833 right now?
Great
Yes,
question.
yes, a ton of it.
Now, let me please, if there's construction going, is that allowed? Are they allowed to be doing this?
Yes.
Do they need-
Because it's private property?
Portions of, yes,
Do they need a permit, Josh?
yes,
I have a question.
Do they have a permit?
yes.
How about
They
for the
cannot
road?
get a permit
That's
for
what they're
temporary
talking about.
road, though.
Correct.
It's not sanctioned by the town, and it's not sanctioned by the county, and Josh and Mary are looking into that to find out what the particulars of that are, and they will be addressing that, so, and that goes to your perception issue.
Right.
And I would have the same perception as you, having seen that temporary road out there, and the mess that it's created, which is why pictures were taken today and forwarded to the right people. They're looking into it for two reasons: the mess on the road, and it's not allowed.
That it's not allowed, we can do a stop work order?
Absolutely.
That's what I was thinking.
May I just make one statement too? My son was building a house there, and he had to relocate his driveway because it was, and which is right across the street, because it's dangerous on the hill there for vehicles pulling in and out, and if big vehicles are pulling in and out,
Right.
it's a dangerous spot where that drive is.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
so the rest of the board members know, it's right next to the mailbox of 839, directly across the street from 846 Lake Road.
You guys, yeah.
Is it
And I just
clear to
wanna ask-
everyone-
Mary, I'm glad you asked that question. And we're gonna look into this, because we just found out today
Right.
about this. This
If
is
a
the
permit was
applicant that
issued-
within the last month or two got a fill permit from us?
I believe so, because
That's the fill permit site?
The same.
I got it.
owner-
Can you tell, Dolly, because I
Does
just,
that go through the planning board?
the fill permit? No, the fill permit was here.
Well, the
The fill
driveway
permit
and all
was
that.
here.
This-
And one thing I do know for a fact, unless you as a board know something different, if you can check, Dolly, when we did we do a fill permit at 833 for sink oil?
Yes.
Okay? Now,
He also.
nothing about that
He
fill
owns
permit,
839 properties.
okay, there's nothing about that fill permit that ever intimated some cell tower application. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to, and by the way, perception, I could care less if a private owner, Cinquefoil, whatever her name
Oh,
is.
of course, they have
Linda,
every
whatever,
right to.
got into some lease with Verizon. Well, shame on them, because we aren't gonna be pressured as a government board. Oh, well, we got a lease here, you gotta approve this. That means nothing to me.
No, I
Nothing.
understand.
That's there on them. Tom, you came in here and said, hey, Tom, I need you to do this because we got a great business opportunity. We already signed a lease for Leo J. Roth. What were you thinking, Tom?
Yeah, But our,
We wouldn't do that.
I know you wouldn't. Well, you're sharper than
but our
that.
concerns are
Well, I
definitely,
We
I
have
more- I
integrity.
have more integrity than that.
yeah.
All of us have integrity.
Our concerns are definite, like if they are,
It's an insult.
not, if they're going forward for trying to get approvals, but they also, on the other hand, are already starting construction without approvals, yes, we're concerned about that as well.
As are we.
So thank you very much for looking into it, I
What was that,
appreciate all of
Dolly?
that.
Thank you, John.
Town Clerk Dolly, if you could just read up.
Okay, on May 6th, resolution number 157, the board approved the issuance of a fill permit pursuant to section 147 Town Code for 833 Lake Road owned by Cinquefoil Corporation.
Yeah. Does everybody know what a fill permit is?
No. Is this what they're doing?
Sure, you
No,
got
they're putting
some-
the,
They're to allow people to haul more than the normal allowed
Fill
of
dirt.
fill dirt
Yeah.
into the site to fill
Dolly, is
voids.
there anything for 839 Lake Road?
No. Pretty sure there is.
This year,
That's for him to run the super flood.
So, tonight is July 15th, and if best case, based on that sequence of events and milestones, I think we're looking after Halloween for this.
There
to
isn't
be
anything
back.
for 839?
All right.
Okay.
but I'm just searching 2021.
The 2021's closer to Pelican, but 839 is where that, I believe, is where that road is being built.
It is, you're right.
But on
839.
Plymouth Road,
Well,
they're
it's
doing
839.
it
I think you guys all
down
know
there with the-
that,
with the
I would hope you know,
It's all gone.
that if the owner is, and I, like,
Then
you said
under
integrity, but
Cinquefoil, they.
the lease,
about it.
the lease doesn't mean anything.
No,
But if they went,
No.
if they're going to do an illegal construction, that is not gonna be a good that's not gonna show well for them in this process,
There's two
if you know what I mean.
Thanks.
SBLs.
So,
CFOIL's under one address and also
Yep.
under different SBL number for a PO box. They're on here, this is the assessment order, so we're wondering if the second one is the 8339 that we're questioning. That's why I
Thank
brought
you.
this forward.
so, without any further ado, I am going to read off this resolution to move it to the planning board for next steps, unless the town board, see, I can't even close out the public hearing right now, John, because there is no public hearing, okay? Which is interesting. Does anybody on the town board have any questions or comments before I read this resolution?
I made a note earlier on in the conversation, and I'm sure that Josh and Mary can follow up on this. If what's going on there now does not have a permit and is required to have a permit, I certainly want to see a stop order placed on what's going on. Whether the fill permit complicates that or not, I'm not sure, Josh and Mary. Because you certainly can't get trucks in for fill if you don't have a place for them to drive. So I don't know where that's going to shake out, but I understand your concerns, and if it's not being done properly, I want it stopped.
Nothing more, they need to clean the road every day, daily.
And I also understand all of your concerns with this, with the tower and the placement of it. And I know this isn't what you want to hear, but I have faith in the process. I really do, because I've been on the board for quite a while. I was on a planning board in the village. It has to go through those processes so that we don't get tripped up on the other end saying we did something capriciously. We don't want that. We just need to look at some of these things that you brought forward tonight. I appreciate all of the emails that you sent. I appreciate the due diligence that you did. And now it's time for both our board and the planning board to do their due diligence as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all of your time and
Thank
listening
you.
to us. Thank you, and all of you guys for showing up, because I'm happy to see all of you here.
And I will also say that I know that the chair of our planning board, well, Tuesday will not be a public hearing because it's just a sketch plan review. He does still appreciate residents coming in and voicing their opinions.
I encourage everyone to go to the sketch review meeting and the subsequent meetings.
Thank you, and thank you for your help, Mr. Kim.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You don't want to leave this second, I want to read this off because I think even within the resolution, it has some clarification of the process.
Okay.
Can I just make a brief statement? Sure. Just as a follow-up to let you know, they are looking into this, and if it's not sanctioned, the initial indications are that it's not sanctioned. So whatever the outcome is, I want you to know that I will send out an email as to what the resolution has been with respect to that temporary road.
Thank you for checking on that.
Where we kept it in those.
I like what Bill said, though.
John,
Keeping it
thank
clean
you.
every day.
That's
There are
their
people,
marching orders. No matter who they are.
They were told my husband that they didn't have the proper equipment to do that.
yeah,
That doesn't make it right.
I know it doesn't.
yeah.
I could not even breathe today walking in my own yard. So
So
know
that's
it's a
something we need to attend to.
it's a
as well,
different
Josh.
issue.
He's aware.
John, I just want to make sure for everybody that's here, I will all this, Nanette, I don't have an email address on you. So to email Nanette, for John, for you to make good on that, which I know you will, we're going to need to make sure that we get Nanette's email address. We don't have Lori Anderson or Sue Sigmund either.
Sue doesn't have one.
Sue sent a letter, okay? We have Marie's, we have Julia's, we have Aaron and Tom Ross, we have Andy's, the gentleman in the back, I think did you email us?
I'm sorry?
Did you email us on
Yes,
this?
Kerm did.
I thought you did.
You emailed them, didn't you? Because
We did, okay.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, and,
Everyone just puts their email address on the sign-in. Sure.
okay. All right. So this is a resolution of the Webster Town Board establishing the town board as. This is the wrong resolution. That's, are you guys in the sewer? Did you fall asleep back there?
No, very
Wrong
interesting,
resolution.
very interesting.
Oh.
We're taking notes.
Did I bury it underneath the documents of Andy and Maria and
It probably burned on its own.
Okay, all right, yes. So this is a resolution of the Webster Town Board referring to the planning board an application regarding lands commonly known as tax account number 049.03-1-17 at 833 Lake Road, Town of Webster, for special use permit and site plan review. At a regular meeting of the Webster Town Board, the Town of Webster, Monroe County, New York, held the Town Board meeting room in the Town of Webster on the 15th day of July 2021. There were all 5 board members present. The following resolution is being offered by Supervisor Flaherty. Whereas Cinquefoil Corporation owns property at 833 Lake Road, Town of Webster, and whereas Blue Sky Towers 3 LLC and Bell Atlantic Mobile Systems LLC, 352 Park Street, Suite 106, North Reading, Massachusetts, seek to construct and operate a wireless telecommunications tower at 830 Lake Road in the Town of Webster. And whereas the affected lands are in a large lot, single-family residential district, and whereas pursuant to Webster Town Code Sections 95-8 and 225-12, subchapter A8, a communications tower is permitted use in a large lot, single-family residential district upon issuance of a special permit by the town board. And whereas pursuant to Webster Town Code Section 95-8, a special use permit is required for communication towers and accessory facility structures under the procedures set forth in Webster Town Code Sections 95-11 and 95-12. And whereas pursuant to Webster Code Section 95-11, the application, if sufficient, shall be referred to the planning board for its review and recommendation and site plan approvals, and a public hearing shall be held before the issuance of a special use permit. And whereas the site survey plan and application have been received by the town board, whereas Webster Town Code Section 95-11 requires referral of applications for special use permits to the town planning board, and whereas Webster Code Section 95-11B requires site plan approval by the planning board under Webster Town Code Chapter 228, Article 4, and whereas an environmental assessment form has been received and reviewed by the town board, now therefore be it resolved, 1, that the application, together with all supporting documents, be referred to the Town of Webster Planning Board for its review and recommendation. 2, that the planning board, as soon as practicable, after completion of the site plan review procedure under Webster Town Code Chapter 228, Article 4, shall submit a report of its findings with its recommendations for approval, conditional approval, or disapproval of a special use permit to the town board. 3, that the town board consents to any request of the planning board, and the planning board be designated as lead agency for coordinated review procedures for the proposed action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. 4, that a public hearing shall be scheduled and conducted at a regular meeting of the town board of the Town of Webster to be held in the town board reading room at 1002 Ridge Road in the Town of Webster at a date to be determined in the future, to consider granting of such special use permit for proposed tower at this site. That is my proposed resolution.
We approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill? Councilman Conley?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
That, and I thank you all for coming. And I can't stress enough, after you spelled out all that you've seen, if I'm sitting in your shoes, I'd have the same perception walking into this room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as Councilman Cahill said, we are gonna look into what they're doing with that road, and maybe it ties to that, fill permit, but
I don't think so.
they're,
There's no way.
No, you're right.
you know,
They're building it. I mean, that's what's happening.
well,
I
Tom,
don't know if they're building.
I'm not saying
they're
they're
not
building.
gonna build it.
Well, but they're putting a road in to
Yeah.
do something.
The road's
man.
in, the fill's in.
Yeah, they're putting a road in for their house.
Can we take a look at break?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's nice to put a face with the names.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I get the feeling we're gonna be seeing more, well, you know what? Don't take this the wrong way, if it doesn't ever come back here,
I would like that.
then I won't see you.
Good, I think you all for a cocktail.
That is a long freaking
We're
time.
gonna have a cocktail and celebrate.
I do hope it feels better. I've had that.
You know what I'm talking about? You know, when you bend over to pick something up and
Yeah.
excuse me.
I didn't have to. She's telling me.
Billy? I don't wanna shortchange anybody on the rest of this agenda, but
Let's get going, Tom.
I hope we can just zip through. So, I am going to, there was 2 sets of board minutes that Dolly presented. I looked at them both, I thought they were fine. And I make a motion that we approve the June 24th town board workshop.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman McCollum?
Aye.
And I would make a motion that our regular board meeting of July 1st minutes be.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman McCollum?
Aye.
And obviously we didn't have July 8th workshop, so the next board minutes to be approved will be these. I can't wait to read those. I'm not sure who was in this week. It was Barry. Well, actually, Barry, we've been here so long that we're into the middle of next week, so there's somebody else.
I went through the bills, checked everything out, they were all in order. I'm amazed at how much things have gone up in cost. But anyhow, I would move that we came in as submitted by the finance director.
Second.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman McCollum?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill? Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. And I gotta tell you, Paul, finance director down there, Paul, thanks for staying late. First time since I've been supervisor that I got from Mary Ann Lamb that there were no POs the week of 4th of July. That had never happened before.
I've not seen that happen.
I've never, well, I've only been here, you know, whatever, but anyway. And I went through the prepaid warrants as submitted by Paul Adams, the director of finance. They were all in order. I propose we approve.
Second.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Aye.
Paul, is this you?
Yeah, the next one is a proposed budget amendment to the Parkland Trust Fund. The town is about to purchase 18.1 acres on Lake Road from the Eckler Estate. And this is a budget amendment to provide the funds within the Parkland Trust Fund to make that purchase. I put it for $63,000. The purchase price is $60,000, but there are always additional costs to close the deal, so I just put in a little extra.
So move. Second.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Aye.
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye. Okay. Okay, this is, we're now up to number 4 and 5 on the agenda, which I think both fall into Pete Baker and Rick Canale. Would you like to make any comments on this? So,
Yeah, I can, if that helps walk you through it.
jump in there,
Over here?
Pete. Yeah.
Podium? Okay.
That'd be great. It is, Pete Baker from Martin and the Judas is walking up. Dolly was at the June 24th workshop. Pete and several of his companions from Martin and the Judas came in, did a presentation, PowerPoint of what I call phase 2 of the sewer plant. They said that basically the next step in the process is, I think, what is it, Paul, EFC, in line per se. The deadline is tomorrow,
Yes.
July 16th. Without further ado, Pete.
Thanks, Supervisor. Again, we have two items. The first is the town, our recommendations of the town board to accept the preliminary engineering report and management plan. This is a copy of it. We will, at the June 24th workshop, we finalized the plans for the project. We submitted that to the town on June 30th. I've gone through comments with Art and Rick on that, so finalized the document. I have it here. It's 600 pages of about 120 pages of text and a lot of them just backup attachments. So I think the first item we had tonight was just basically the town board to accept it on that end. And then after that, the next part that we want to start the process is the secret, basically. With the pending, tomorrow is basically listing the project. That puts the town in the queue for funding. We don't know when the funding is going to happen. Typically, the big grant that we're looking for is a 25% Water Improvement Infrastructure Act or authorization grant. That's a 25% grant. Historically, that's been June timeframe. In order to get that grant, you need to have seeker and bond resolutions in place. So tonight, if the report's accepted, the next step would be starting that secret process, which would be basically the town's declaring itself with notice of intent to establish the agency.
So before I read off these resolutions, do the town board members have any questions or comments?
No, I just want people who are listening to be reassured that this in no way, not to use the phrase done deal. There's by no means does this mean that we are beginning this project next year, that we're going to be doing it anytime soon, but we have to do this to just get in line.
This is the initial step.
Yep.
So there is a funding deadline tomorrow. So
Yes.
essentially, town can start the project anytime, just pretty much without this step. The town will not, you have to wait, you basically have to wait another year for any grant opportunities.
And as we beat the dead horse on the last hour and a half on an issue, the procedural, the process, I mean, this process is really robust. And, by no means, as Patty said, I don't want to be redundant, the town hasn't committed to anything of taxpayer money on this. I think the next thing is next Thursday night. We have, I think it might be our only town board workshop agenda item, is that whether Rick Canale and or Art Patron and or people from Barton and Judas, we're going to get granular on the seminal or the milestone events that would have to occur in order and all that stuff that would all of a sudden have ground being broken for phase 2 on Phillips Road. So that'll be interesting. And I also in my notes have that, a lot of what was presented on June 24th, some of the return on investment aspects of this proposal. Barry, you really asked some great questions about, are those revenues or cost savings? We need to really sharpen our pencil and see if we get in there. So that's all part of the process of this. It'll get pretty robust. So, Charlie, how much of this do I have to read?
Well, I think there's 2 resolutions, correct? One
Yeah.
is the resolution to just say accepting the preliminary report, map, and plan.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I don't want to shortchange any of our listeners. We don't have too many people in the room anymore, so I would thank you, Peter, for your explanation of this. And based on that, I would propose a resolution accepting the preliminary engineering report, map, and plan for a proposed asset renewal and wastewater resource recovery facility project that was prepared by Barton and Judas DPC. Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Catali.
Aye.
Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
And then next is that I would propose a resolution of the Webster Town Board establishing the town board as lead agency under seeker for the wastewater pollution control facility asset renewal project and wastewater resources recovery facility improvements project.
Second.
Supervisor Cleary.
Aye.
Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Catali.
Aye.
Pete,
It was a long wait for
I
that.
gotta tell you something, and Rick, Pete, I don't know your significant other. I have met Rick's better half. Please apologize to her that you're getting home this late tonight. Thanks for hanging out.
He's used to it by now, so.
All right, I guess, Dolly, is this basically best for you to explain next one? Or is it Paul?
Well, no,
I
only
don't want-
one. According to town law, section 2910, I must as town clerk,
Thanks,
publish
guys.
notice of
Thank
the
you.
financial report at the end of the year by the supervisor of the board, and/or the annual update document. So it's just a requirement that I have to follow. Probably should have been done right after you accepted the financial report. It's just a little delay in the process.
Not a big deal, because all the state controller dates for submitting and all that were met, right?
Right, the annual update documents due at the end of April each year. We had it filed by around April 15th. The audit report we had by mid-May. In addition, we also had an agreed upon procedure reports for town clerk, secret taxes, and court.
Well, then I propose a resolution to authorize the town clerk to give public notice of the availability of the town of Webster's New York State annual financial report and audited financial statements, including reports for the town justices, the town clerk, and receiver of taxes as filed in the town clerk's office for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Supervisor Cleary.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill. Councilman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilwoman Catali.
Aye.
Okay, the next two, I actually was a guest at a meeting of the library board last night, and I met the two proposed new board members at this meeting for the library board. The library's charter or bylaws of their board, and obviously they're under that state education law and whatever, allows for having as little as 5 people on the board and a maximum of 11 people on the library board. The current library board configuration is 7 members, and they want to go to 9, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Does the board have any comments or questions before I propose these appointments?
No.
I just wonder why they get 2 more people, that's all.
They're entitled to it, so.
Of course, they're entitled to a lot of it.
Bill? You know, I had a fun conversation with him last night, and I hope he's gonna watch it, because I said, look, I found out that left brain is the numbers and all that stuff, and right brain is the creativity. And I said, look, all you guys in the library board are right brain, you're all creative. I don't have that, I'm a left brain, whatever, so I find my interaction with them interesting.
I'm sure.
Did you tell them to talk to one side of your head, or?
I looked at them with my left side, but no, good group of people.
They're just trying to spread the work, that's fine.
Well, I hope that's the case. I mean, I know I had 7 kids, so we can make the word light.
So you can get the leaves right.
That's right. All right, so without further ado, I propose a resolution to appoint Peter Knapp to the library board for a term ending December 31st, 2025.
Second.
Supervisor Cleary.
Aye.
Councilman Cahill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Catali.
Aye.
Councilwoman Abbott.
Aye.
Councilman Dean.
Aye.
Stein to the library board for a term ending December 31st, 2025.
Second?
Supervisor Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilwoman Cataldi?
Aye.
Councilman Cahill?
Aye.
Councilman Abbott?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Billy, it is 9:24. I know somebody tried to call in earlier. Did you?
No.
Okay. We'll give a couple of minutes for people to call in. Anybody that hung out watching, God bless them, man, that's 2 hours. So we'll do our round table. Paul, anything to say?
Not too much action. Keeping plenty busy. Got budget meeting next week. To keep working through the process.
So my article today, the budget at this town is a year-round process. Thank you very much, Bill. Barry?
A lot going on at the museum, preparing for a grand opening. It's going to come later this summer. Well, as it gets closer, we'll talk more about it.
And Barry, I think in the next couple of days, I know that the portal closed for applicants to be on that committee for the RFP for the building, our restaurant with Bayside. I think that committee is very close to being set, and their charge is going to be given in the next couple of days. I understand this one.
I would have done it.
Be interesting. Bill?
No, it's just budget time. We got one tomorrow.
Hey, that's right, we have.
Maybe assessing.
That's our last.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it your last one?
It's the last first meeting.
Just trying.
We've already done second meetings on
You're
2
done
or 3 of the
Yeah.
departments. I think,
Second
Patty,
Monday.
we had 2 on Monday, right?
The second meeting.
Second meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. Mary, every time you come to the board meetings, we're very excited.
Not always, but yeah, I have had a couple of good ones in the first few months, so.
Keep it up. That might mean you're going to look at your attendance.
Josh, you knew it was going to happen. People said, we never got the letter, we want the big signs. We get the big signs, we never got it.
Did you catch a stone here around those signs?
He's just breaking his.
It's too late for that, John.
I'm so tired, I can't help myself.
John?
No phone calls. I'm good.
All right. Eddie?
Yep.
Charlie?
Yep.
Dolly?
Yeah, can I just mention real quickly about peddler permits? Yeah. We just started accepting applications, we're receiving complaints that people are going door to door. No one at this point has been issued a permit. We've been receiving complaints. Karen put the word out on social media today, I believe, or she's going to be putting it out. So I appreciate her doing that. I do have some applications sitting in my office right now, that I haven't done this week. So just want, if anyone comes to your door, they must show you their permit. If they don't, you can call 911 and say it's a non-emergency report that someone's please have to do their call. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. Well, with that being said, this meeting is officially closed.
Hey, Josh, just catch your